Let's discuss this a little bit more with Ryan Dawson. He's an author and peace activist who joins us from Osaka. Ryan Dawson, looking at what happened, obviously the first thing is that this summit has been described as it being ended abruptly. What's your view on that? I'm looking at the online media here, and people, it's exploding with comments basically saying that this was a major failure.
Yes, it's a shame that they went in with an all or nothing attitude. They wanted denuclearization, and North Korea wanted to lift the sanctions. The first day, they were talking about a four-step plan, and they were talking about communications hub liaisons, which they did agree on that at least. The second part was supposed to incorporate cooperative economic zones, as well as even allowing tourism to certain tourist spots in North Korea, within North Korea, to allow some capitalism, to allow some trade. And then the third step, they were going to connect rail lines and allow the free flow of goods, not people, but trade between the South and North Koreans. And then the last step, of course, was about lifting sanctions completely and denuclearizing. They skipped all of the previous three steps and went straight to denuclearization. And of course, North Korea can't do that. The U.S. has all the leverage. They have a very easily reversible position. If North Korea doesn't denuclearize after the sanctions are lifted, they can simply put the sanctions on again. But North Korea cannot simply create a nuclear weapons program again so quickly. Once they denuclearize, that's it. It would cost them billions of dollars and many years to get back to where they are. And so they don't want to give that up. But rather than doing this incrementally, which was done in the 90s, the closest that Korea's ever had to peace, they made it an all or nothing, and Trump walked away. Now, the Americans are probably thinking, we can be patient. Korea is the one that's suffering under sanctions. There's no real threat to the United States. So why should we give them anything? And that seems to be the attitude.
So you have a joint agreement signing ceremony that was canceled. You have the events where both left the venue, in a matter of speaking, where Kim, at this point, is up to speculation whether he has actually left being angry or not. And we heard the press conference where nothing concrete was relayed by the U.S. president. Do you think that at this point, Kim Jong-un wants to continue with the talks?
Yes, they said there would be future talks, but they didn't say when. And Trump, all he could do was offer window dressing. Oh, we have a great personal relationship. Relationships are good. Nothing concrete was hammered out. None of the steps, which were very reasonable, were agreed upon, because they decided we can't have any of these steps unless we get denuclearization, and they wanted it on all the sites, even including some sites we don't know about, is what Trump was saying. And they were not willing to give those up because that's the only card that North Korea has. And so this was a failure. I mean, the U.S. could have signed a deal. You can always work towards a better deal in the future, but instead of going in steps, they decided to make it all or nothing. And that's why they're not going to have a deal, and there probably will not be a future meeting unless Trump can get everything he wants.
So looking at that perspective that you just expressed, it sounds like they've both have walked away, because Trump did say a couple things that shows that he walked away. First, he said, I'd much rather do it right than do it fast. Of course, that's the Trump way of saying things. And and then when it comes to the sanctions, he said that Trump said that North Korea wanted the sanctions lifted in their entirety, and we couldn't do that. So now that this thing is over, one has to make the move towards the other. Am I correct in looking at it this way?
Yes, I mean, they should offer a partial sanction relief in tandem with, partial denuclearization. They have agreed to refuse any further testing on nuclear weapons, any further testing on ballistic missiles, and the U.S. has agreed to end its war games, although Trump chalked that up to the price tag involved. He wouldn't give them any credence on that either. But that's very little. For after 6 months since Singapore, really nothing got added by this meeting other than, well, we have a good relationship and we'll see in the future. The Americans think that North Korea is softening up, and that over time the sanctions will be so detrimental that they're going to have to accept the all or nothing deal. Of course, it would be much better, and what they're going to probably end up doing is working with some sort of trade programs with South Korea and without negotiating with the U.S. They're going to have to talk to their neighbors without going to the United States to get approval for everything. And a little bit of that happened in this 261 days already with soft trade actions, agricultural trade and things like that, which is significant because you have to have something to build on and something to give hope to the people. And sanction relief is vital for North Korea, but the U.S. is really their sole interest is getting rid of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles from North Korea. And it doesn't matter whether or not North Koreans are suffering. Trump said he wants them to thrive, and he thinks they'll be a powerhouse economically very quickly in the future if they can get a deal made. So he is dangling that carrot. But it's very hard to trust that the United States will make good on its half of the deal when they haven't seen that around the world from the Middle East or any other place where the U.S. has negotiated, hey, get rid of your weapons and things would be great. We saw what happened in Libya. We saw what happened in just the accusation in Iraq. They didn't even have weapons to get rid of, and they were still invaded. And so North Korea is going to be very skeptical and very cautious about relinquishing their weapons because they don't see any good faith on the United States. That's why it really falls on the hands of the United States to lift some sanctions. You can easily reverse that and show some sort of good faith so that North Korea can have trust in this relationship, because there's really nothing to build on. The U.S. has zero credibility in that regard.
Okay.